What's up, I'm your local pleb, and with Christmas and the holidays in general getting closer and closer to us, it means it's the perfect season for giving and getting. You give people stuff while they give you stuff back. Christmas is one of my favorite holidays because you get to spend time with your friends and family, exchange gifts and happiness with each other, enjoy wonderful meals, and just have fun times in general. Unless you're shoveling snow, like, that isn't fun at all. However, here's something that people need to know more about. Toys and clothes and all of that stuff are fun, but a major form of entertainment that people can get their fill out of is video games. Now, there's a lot of video games out there, but I'm only going to narrow it down to 10 on this list, and also I'm going to be specifically talking about indie games too. If you don't know, indie games are video games created by people who aren't a part of major corporations. They're made by small development teams and individuals with less of a budget than the bigger games out there. Personally, I love that. I know people love their Marios and their Call of Duties and their Halos. However, I think that indie games give a spark to the gaming industry that other major companies haven't tried doing since they're focused on their biggest mascots. This gives us incredible games that I've played and I want to recommend to you. So if you're a parent and you want to get your child a game for Christmas, or you're just looking to get something cool for the holidays, then be sure to stick around. There's gonna be a good amount of games that I talk about, and one of them just might tickle your fancy. Now, before the list starts, I need to make sure that I mention this. I'm not really going to show much gameplay and not go into too much incredible detail about the story and progress of these games, because I think it's best to play these games for yourself and experience everything that there is. It feels way more refreshing to experience something from your own personal point of view. But with all of that hubbub out of the way, I think it's time for me to start the list of the top 10 indie games that you need to buy. If you're a fan of RPGs, then you're definitely going to love this game. Fables, the Everlasting Sapling is an RPG game where you control these adorable little insects and go on an adventure. You follow Team Snakemouth, a team of 3 bugs that consists of Kabu the Beetle, V the Bee, and Leaf the Moth. These 3 pair together to explore the land of Bugaria. After exploring, you start searching for ancient artifacts which help you in finding the Everlasting Sapling, which can give bugs the power of eternal youth. Of course, this quest is way easier said than done. One of the strong points that this game drives home is how the game looks in general. It gives me incredible Paper Mario vibes with these cartoony objects in an environment like this. It has tons of vibrant colors, and each character has their own personality to make them stand out more. Now, if that wasn't enough, the battle mechanics are again similar to Paper Mario. It's all about timing your attacks and doing certain actions like button spamming or hitting a correct combination of buttons correctly so you can get the most amount of damage possible. You can even press the button right as the enemy's attack to block the hit and take reduced damage. There's even actions you can do outside of the battle in the overworld that can help you against enemies or even solve puzzles. I can legit say that this game is definitely a Paper Mario successor, especially after a few of their games flopped, but the thing is, this isn't Paper Mario. This is Fables, its own series. This game is really charming and really does its job well for making a good RPG game with unique characters and an interesting story. Also, if you want a harder challenge, I'm pretty sure there's a medal that you can wear that makes the game harder if you're into that. This is what I love about indie games. They're not fan games of already popular big titles. These are things that can grow on their own and become incredible masterpieces in the future. I absolutely recommend this game, and I just recommend that you buy it in general. The game is about $20 after all, and you're bound to have a blast with this sweet game. Maybe you want something more fast-paced than what I showed you. Well, how about a platformer game that, hear me out, is a run-and-gun boss battle shooting game, all in the styles of a 1930s cartoon? Are you interested yet? Cuphead was a breath of fresh air in regards to the 2D shooter department. Its most eye-catching thing was the graphics. I'm not even joking. Much like an old cartoon, every single frame from the game was hand-drawn. Not only that, but the game provides a significant amount of challenge to the point where when you beat that really hard boss you've been stuck on, it feels super rewarding. In regards to the story, you play as Cuphead or Mugman residing in Inkwell Isle. Despite the warnings of the Elder Kettle, the two wandered off and found a place known as the Devil's Casino. And of course, once you made it to the casino, you gamble your life away. Like, no joke, I'm being legit when I say that. The devil literally appears and bets their souls for all of the loot in the casino. Despite Mugman hating this concept, Cuphead lost and had to give up both of their souls. However, the devil could offer to pardon them in exchange to get souls from the other creatures in the land and turn them in. This is basically why you need to fight the horde of bosses in the game. The design in this game is incredible, like I've said, and I'd also say that the game has a rather fair difficulty spike. That doesn't ease the pain of how hard these bosses can get, but it makes it seem fair to an extent. I also appreciate the fact that there's different ways on how you could play this game. Do you need an upgrade for your weapons? Collect some coins from the running gun levels and then spend them to get different types of finger guns. You can even get other upgrades for your mobility and health, but you can't have everything on at once. The best part about this is that if you wanted to play this right now, then I'd recommend that you do so, because not too long ago, Cuphead released DLC called The Delicious Last Course, which adds more bosses, story, and even a new character you can play as. You could pick this game up right now for about $20. But then again, I would also invest in some headache pills because you're gonna need it after the amount of migraines this game can give you. Let's get to something a little bit more spooky. And yes, we're taking that word literally. Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion HD Renovation is a deceptive and creepy first-person horror game. Now, the reason why I'm specifically talking about the HD Renovation version of this game is for a few reasons. The game Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion is a separate game, and the difference is that this one has more enhanced models, graphics, and I think the DLCs from the original are in this one as well. Also, the original game used to be called Spooky's House of Jumpscares, but apparently there was some legal trouble between them and something called Spooky's House, and then the game ended up getting a sad logo. I just think the HD Renovation gives the game a new sense of hope. Take that as you will. Now, in regards to a story, there's not much to talk about here. You play as an unnamed protagonist who happens to be a history enthusiast and wanted to visit the mansion to find out about its backstory. Soon enough, you meet this bright ghost known as Spooky, who basically just comments about how this mansion is scary or whatever and just taunts you the whole time. And you also have to go through 1,000 rooms. Listen, I know. Who's gonna sit there walking through 1,000 rooms? Well, that's kind of the point of the game, but it really doesn't sound as sluggish as it seems. A majority of the time, you just sprint through rooms without having a care in the world. Sounds easy, right? Okay, well, about that! Eventually, the silly cardboard cutout things that try and spook you won't be the thing you'll be screaming about. There's a ton of other monsters in this game that will try and hunt you down and murder you. I think what I love about this game the most is the deceptive charm that this game provides. It's meant to look like a cute and friendly, innocent horror game relying on cheap scares. However, the deeper you get into this game, the more freaky it turns and the more backstory you learn about every monster and even Spooky herself. The game is only $10 and is also available on platforms like Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, though as far as I remember, it's only a digital purchase on the other consoles, so you'd have to buy it from a specific in-game console store, but this game will definitely not disappoint you. If you want a game that mixes both challenge, beauty, and a whole ton of secrets, then I can't recommend Hollow Knight more than enough. This game is phenomenal, and I'm surprised how I haven't played this game sooner. Now, if you aren't aware, I'm actually doing a full playthrough of this game on my Hyper Heims channel, so I haven't even beaten the game yet, nor do I know anything about the ending. That's also why I want to only describe some of the beginning details of the game so you can unravel everything for yourself in regards to the story. To give a short synopsis of the plot, we play as a little fella that's only referred to as the Knight. Like, we don't even know their name. They explore the land of Hallownest, which was plagued by a supernatural disease. To rid this place of the disease, the knight has to kill these plebs called the Dreamers to confront where this infection is coming from. When I first loaded this game up, the stuff I paid attention to was the music and the detail of the game. It all mashes up phenomenally. When the place feels barren, the music becomes ambient or somewhat gentle. And also when you have to deal with a tough enemy, the music becomes harsh and stressful. However, the thing you should be paying attention to more is where you are. This is a game that relies heavily on exploration of your surroundings. There's multiple locations within the land of Hallownest, and that means there's a ton of things to find. Your character only starts out with a blade and that's it. You're gonna have to go around and fight bosses and explore other areas to find new abilities. You can then use these new abilities to reach even more areas and find even more new abilities. I know it does seem like a chore having to go back and forth over and over again just to find that one thing to help you progress in the game, but there's games that commonly do that with this similar style. Much like how I compared Bug Fables to Paper Mario, I could compare this game to the Metroid platforming games. Not only can you find new abilities, but also things that can increase the strength of your knight, like HP and damage upgrades. It just makes you think, how many places can I explore to be absurdly strong? And that's what I love about Hollow Knight. This game is a must-play, and it's only $15. Not only that, but there's DLC that was added to the game known as Godmaster, Lifeblood, The Grim Troop, and Hidden Dreams. And not only that, but there's apparently going to be a sequel to the game released soon called Hollow Knight Silk Song, which I cannot wait until that gets released. Let's go back to something a little more in the style of a retro game and talk about Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. Would you believe me if the main hero of this game doesn't primarily use a sword or anything like that, but a shovel instead? Are you interested yet? This game is addicting, fun, challenging, and also has another successor vibe to it, much like the games I've mentioned before. This game feels like an incredible successor to the Mega Man franchise, with the concept of you having to go through a set of levels and then having to defeat a tough boss at the end while also finding new power-ups to upgrade your character. Now, in regards to the plot, it's actually tricky to explain. The game originally came out as just Shovel Knight and had you play as, well, Shovel Knight. You used to roam the lands with your pal Shield Knight, but then their adventures would soon end at the Tower of Fate when it had apparently taken Shield Knight away. This would then lead our hero into a form of retirement until the land was taken over by the Enchantress and her Order of No Quarter. Now, Shovel Knight is back in action. Now, I know, the story doesn't seem that tricky, but here's where the crazy part comes in. This is only one of 4 stories in the game. The developers in this game would then go on to add DLC to Shovel Knight. It added characters that you could even see and play as in the game, like Plague Knight, Spectre Knight, and King Knight. Since this game wasn't about just Shovel Knight anymore, the game was renamed to Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. Other than having the whopping 4 stories to go through, this game is incredibly fun for the fact of how it sets you up to succeed and triumph over evil in the game. It gives you enemies and obstacles to learn how to avoid, abilities to learn how to use in a situation you feel it needs to be used best, and even a lot of collectibles and upgrades to help you out. While the game is $40, being one of the more expensive ones on the list, I think you're going to have a lot of time to spend on this game completing all of the stories and collecting everything you can. Now let's take some time to calm down. We've talked about action games, horror games, and then some. But what if I told you that you could have fun in a video game where there's no points, there's no time limit, and all there is just an open fire in front of you? Little Inferno is personally unlike any game that's on this list. I'm not even joking. It's a whole basket of comfort, but with a giant load of fun mixed inside of it. All you do is throw things in a fireplace, watch those items burn, and watch how they burn. I know that sounds boring, but it's a little bit more complex than what I described. This one has the least amount of story to my knowledge because I don't even think we know everything about it yet. You play as some pleb who recently purchased a Little Inferno entertainment fireplace from the company Tomorrow Corporation, who, ironically enough, is the same company that published this game. The reason why you bought this in the first place is because the temperature has decreased drastically on our planet and no one knows why. The only thing we can do now is sit by our fireplace and burn everything we own. We can buy more things with a catalog and then burn them and then somehow make more money with the things that we just burned? How is this company not bankrupt? Now, the interesting thing about this game is that, like I said, this isn't a game that has much action or adventure. However, this game manages to have a good amount of character development from letters that you can obtain in your mailbox. Also, the game has a unique combo system, meaning that you can put specific items in your fireplace down and receive the rewards of stamps if you correctly burn those items and guess the combo correctly. Oh yeah, stamps are a must-have in this game. When you buy an item, you have to wait a certain amount of time before the item ships to you, or you can use stamps to make it instantly arrive. I know it sounds dull, but that's another reason why you shouldn't go into this game expecting chaos, to a certain degree. For only $15, this is definitely a game that's not only enjoyable, but can help you relax. And also, recently, there was some new Christmas DLC that got added, so you can also play through that as well. Out of all of the games on this list, this one is the deepest in regards to emotions. Omori is an RPG game with psychological horror elements that was actually based on the webcomic series of the same name. Now, be warned. This game deals with elements like trauma, anxiety, and even depression. Realistically, this game has a lot more of a serious tone than the other games that I've mentioned. You control a boy named Sunny normally, but you also control Omori in Sunny's dream world like an alter ego. Stay with me on this one. He's also a hikikomori, which is the Japanese term for avoiding social contact. I mean, half of that word literally has Omori in it. Your main quest is to overcome many of your secrets and fears, and not only that, but there's multiple endings to this game, and it all depends on how they interact with certain things. I think out of all the games on this list, this was the game that I was told to play for myself the most. Unfortunately, this is also the game that I know the least about. I guess that's also a good thing because it can also make me not spoil anything, but it's also sad because I wish I could have seen more when writing this script. However, I just didn't want to remove this game off the list because I knew that this game had a major impact in regards to emotions. So for the things that I can reveal to you, I need to say that I'm a major fan of the design of this game. The characters in the overworld all look adorable, the music is incredible, and I really love the chalky-like design of when you enter a battle. However, the cutesy feel of this game isn't all that there is to offer. When this game wants to be terrifying, it will be terrifying. There's no doubt about that. Everything I've said about the cute stuff can be said similarly to the horror this game shows. The best thing I can say is that your heart may not even be prepared to play through a game like this. It's mentally tormenting, if anything, but that's the beauty of this game. The game is $20, and it's absolutely an experience that people need to see because not many games can recreate something like this. I'm even one of those people who really need to finish this game. So now that we've talked about an RPG game that tackles serious subjects, let's talk about another RPG game that is just absurd. Deltarune covers a lot of bases to be an enjoyable game. It's funny, it has awesome puzzles, it has loads of interesting characters, and there's a pleb ton of other things in this game too. Now, there may be many familiar characters that we see in this game from another game that the creator made called Undertale, but it's been noted that this game isn't the direct sequel to Undertale. I'm personally thinking that it's an alternate dimension of sorts. Now, in this game, you control a pleb known as Chris, who apparently seems to live a normal life, living with Toriel as his mother. However, if you think this game is going to be normal beyond that, you're surely mistaken. After being taken to school, you meet a character named Susie, who seems to be a bit of a troublemaker. You know the ones. Eats chalk all the time, doesn't care about school, eating people's faces. Yeah, you know the type. After they try and get some chalk for their teacher Alphys, they find their way into some sort of a storage closet and end up falling down and ending up in an entirely new area. What did they just stumble upon? The fighting element in this game is superb. You have the option to either fight or spare your enemies, kinda like an Undertale, but I'm pretty sure the ending isn't as heavily affected depending on what you choose to do. I'd even say that this game has an amazing cast of characters that you'll meet the more you play, and has a ton of good story to sit through. Now, if you're wondering why didn't I talk about Undertale along with this game, this is mainly because while I do love Undertale, Deltarune is actually still being worked on today. There's currently 2 chapters released, and from what I've heard, the creator of the game is currently working on chapters 3, 4, and 5. Right now, you can actually play the first 2 chapters for free, at least on PC, and when the rest of the chapters release, it'll be under a paid release that might be either $20 or $40. Whatever the case, I'm excited for what the full game will be like. Now, these next 2 games are, in all honesty, the games that I've probably spent the most amount of time on in comparison to all the other games on this list combined. What can I say about The Binding of Isaac Rebirth? This game is straight up addicting. I was a fan of this game ever since its original release. And no, I don't mean when this game first came out, I mean when the original Binding of Isaac was released, which is a different game compared to the one I'm talking about now. It's kind of like the spooky jumpscare mansion stuff where I'm talking about the insane remake instead of the original game. However, I can't stress enough with how amazing it feels to play this game. The lore may be a little on the weird side, but the gameplay elements that this game has is monumentally insane. The game's story itself is still pretty interesting. You play as a child known as Isaac, and you live happily in your home with your mother. However, Isaac's mom heard a voice that apparently sounded like God. If you didn't know, by the way, this game has a solid amount of religious themes. This voice instructed her to kill Isaac, but Isaac hid away to the basement by a trapdoor. Now he has to find some way to defeat his own mother. An interesting fact about the story is that it's actually based on the biblical story of Abraham and Isaac. Now, what makes this game super addicting is that it's all about the variety of things that the game has to offer. This game has hundreds of different items to collect and help you. There's hundreds of different monsters that you have to defeat, and dozens upon dozens of bosses to take down, and every time you load the game, everything is randomly generated. The map will be different, the items will be different, the enemies will be different, and much more. You can even unlock more items and even unlock more characters by completing certain tasks in the game. There's also like more than 20 endings! The thing that makes this game different from the others is the amount of replayability that this game has to offer. Combine that with the different combinations of items that you can get and even different levels you'll be able to soon find makes this game unlike any other. Also, there's a ton of DLC for this game that adds even more new things to try out for yourself. The base game is like $15, but it ends up being around $50 if you include all the DLC. However, I think the price is worth it if you want an addicting game that can keep providing new things the more you play. Terraria. Terraria is, in my opinion, a game that you need to play. It has some of the best things I could ever ask for in a video game. The strongest thing about Terraria, much like The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, is its capabilities of having amazing replayability. Like, I'm not even joking, I have approximately 1,800 hours logged onto the PC version of Terraria alone. If that isn't enough proof that this game has insane replayability, then I don't know what does. I mean, it also proves that I have no life, but we'll talk about that later. Now, you might be asking, well, all of the other games have interesting stories with them, so what's the story with Terraria? And if I'm gonna be honest, there really isn't any. I know there's probably some deep lore that I don't know about, but I'm just talking about the lore that you can find within the game itself. I think the game revolves more about how you make your character and survive. Anyone could look at this game and say it's like a 2D version of Minecraft, but they don't understand that it's more than just digging and fighting. It's about how you survive and fight. Do you prefer to make a whole civilization for NPCs to move into and prosper so they can give you items in return, or do you try and be a lone wolf and take on challenges for yourself? Are you a master in melee combat, or do you prefer using ranged weapons? There's so many things that you can do in this game that it's insane, and I kid you not, I've heard so many times that this game was going to be receiving its final update, but that was like 10 updates ago. This game is still receiving constant love from not only the developers of the game, but even from the community. Terraria has some of the most incredible mods that other people have made for the game to expand on the chaos that the game already provides. You just get that feeling of obtaining more and more materials, which you can use to obtain even better materials to take on harder challenges that you thought you couldn't take on, but look at you now. Now, I also want to point out why I didn't include Minecraft on this list. To be fair, I love Minecraft and have amazing memories with the game, and know that it started off as a simple indie title. However, Minecraft was purchased by Microsoft and practically turned it into a AAA big game, which isn't a bad thing at all. I just feel like Terraria still holds a place in my heart that other games can't really take. And the best part is that by the time that I looked it up on Steam at least, the game is only $10. All you need to spend is $10 to own what I can consider one of the best indie games of all time. This is a game that you at least need to try out for yourself. I'm sure you'll find something in the game that you'll love. And there you go. That's the list. Now, I'm not yelling at you to go ahead and buy these games immediately, but I'm just saying that if you want to get someone a good catalog of games, then this is a list that I recommend from my personal experience. Hell, there's a whole ton of other indie games out there that I haven't even listed, so if you want to, I'd love to know down in the comments below what your favorite indie games are. I'd love to hear what other experiences that I'm missing out on. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this list. Just because I put a game higher on the list than another doesn't mean I like it any less. All of these games are great, and I absolutely recommend that you at least check out one of them in the future. Now, I hope each and every one of you enjoys the holidays. I'm gonna go ahead and spend some time with my family and friends while also indulging in some games that I love playing. And also a lot of Christmas loot too. Santa takes notes to give me digital gifts just in case, right?